Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. My name is Dr. Patience Abiedu, and I'm your host for today's program. We have two topics today. One of them has to do with reconstruction. We are asking the question, reconstruction, is it a cure or a band-aid as the war continues in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia? The second topic is health related. February is Heart Health Awareness Month, and we want to talk to you about this very important health topic so we keep our hearts healthy and we keep our bodies healthy. With me today is one of our very regular hosts or guests, Dr. Fred Lobati. Doc, welcome to the Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman.
Thank you very much, Mappy. I'm very happy we have the opportunity to present today. Hopefully, we'll be able to provide some good information for our people.
Thank you so much. Let me first of all apologize for the late start. You know, we are a country at war, so things usually do not happen like as planned. We are praying that when we get our own country, our nation soon, then we will be able to manage our time better. With that said, I want to send special salute to the ASA that are defending our homeland. I want to greet our brothers and sisters that are IDPs in La République du Cameroon, in our own homeland, Ambazonia, and those that are refugees in neighboring lands like Nigeria, Ghana, and other parts of the world. So let's just delve into the topic that we have. But before we proceed, I came across something, Doc, and bear with me because this is not a new topic, reconstruction. And when I read this, it will probably jolt your memory of what happened in 2020. So in 2020, let me be specific, it was really in May of 2020, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, signed a financial agreement and a project document of a sum of 8,900,000,000 CFA for the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the war-torn areas in southern Cameroon. Now, this was specific at that time. And so we even knew about the minister or delegate of the Ministry of Economy and Planning at that time, Paul Tassong, going around talking about this plan for reconstruction development when he toured the well, I will use what they say, northwest and southwest, which is the northern zone and southern zone, that he toured those areas between June 22nd and July 3rd, 2020. Now we are back again. This is what, 6 years down the road, or 5.5 years down the road. We are already into the same reconstruction when there's a war going. Doc, just as an introduction, what do you want to talk about this topic, just to introduce this to our guests?
Well, that very guy, to Paul Tassong, he went to Sacred Heart College and went through Cameroon administrative schools. I think he went through ENAM and went and did some course in Harvard University and things like that. That is the same guy. He's from Lubielem, Menji. And He's the same guy who said that the Northwest and Southwest had already been reconstructed after La Republique used him to compromise the fighting forces in Lobelem. You remember the popular field marshal, how the Lobelem forces were literally grinding La Republique. And in fact, the field marshal even was designing his own military weapons. They captured his mother and his sister and locked them in Carnegie and used that emotionally to capture the family. And, some people who had been active in the diaspora joined, and now the field marshal, you don't see him anymore. But basically, Paul Tasson was instrumental to get the people of Le BLM to put down their arms and start working with La République du Cameroon, and they faked killing of the field marshal and sent him
Right.
abroad to live in somewhere else.
Right.
But anyway, that is what he was saying there. And he even got a PhD from the University of
Hmm.
Bamenda for reconstructing the Northwest and Southwest. So right now, what you see is some few roads being done, Dongamantung and Bamenda, but he had already reconstructed in his feeble mind over 6 years ago. That's what I'll
Okay.
comment right there.
All right. So let me just go now to specific questions, and then we're going to ask some videos and pictures. So, what is really up with all the road constructions going on all over the northern zone and the southern zone? They call them northwest region, northern. What is going on with all this road construction at this time?
Well, first of all, we want, when we comment, to make our people to understand that we are not against the reconstruction of roads that alleviate the level of suffering. You remember, if you live in our region, you know how our people suffer throughout all seasons, whether it's rainy season or dry season. During the rainy season, you go through the mud, you feel well beaten up when you push cars through the mud before you arrive wherever you're going. In the dry season, you come out, you look like somebody who just went through the desert with dust all over your face. So no, we don't want our people suffering. So any level of development that they can get, we are happy about that. But the thing is that after our people have suffered so long and cried for some level of development, and they see something being done, they can get carried away and forget truly what is going on. So what we want to try to enlighten our people to understand what is truly going on with what they see as some level of construction going on, and not to think that the Yaoundé government suddenly woke up from sleep and saw the light
Mhm.
and then
Right.
decided that let's go and do some construction here and there. When this revolution started, and we have mentioned in previous programs that since our decolonization was compromised and we were forced to join La République du Cameroon, and the French discovered that there are lots of resources in southern Cameroon, the oil in the Indian region, in the southwestern region, just like the delta of Nigeria, they decided to do away with the federation and then forced us into a unitary state and then mutated us back to what La République was before we met in Fumban. All has been about our resources. The French want
Yeah.
to control our territory. In order to control all those resources, they do not love our people. So they compromised all our level of development, confiscated all our uh, infrastructures, road plans, and everything that we had, including our banking system, and then abandoned us to do nothing. And so our people were disgruntled. And when this escalated to the war that started in 2006, in 2000 and 2016, in 2018, Le Drian, the French foreign minister and European minister, came to Cameroon.
Hmm.
He was received by René Sadi at the airport. They were rejoicing because their French master had come. And he promised that France would give 49 billion francs to reconstruct the Northwest and Southwest in order to appease the people. People need to mark that word, to appease the people. So the purpose was to make them, not to be preventing France from getting the resources that they had been getting as usual. When a child is crying and you don't want the noise, then you put a pacifier in the child's mouth so that the child stops crying and the noise will no longer be heard. So what he said was that they will try to do some level of reconstruction in the northwest and southwest so that our people will stop complaining and continue the same thing so that France can continue extorting the resources. All the small development you see around Donga Mantung is from that money.
Hmm.
Besides the other one that you talked about that was
Yeah.
promised to reconstruct the war-torn region when they discovered that our people had been abandoned all these years. But the ones that are going around Bamenda is totally different. We'll talk about that as time goes on.
Okay. So at this point, let's see some images, because when we talk about reconstruction, we want to see where we were before. There were some images before the Germans, during Germans' time, right after the Germans came and left, the early times when the British were well, I don't want to use the colonizers, when we're under the British as a trust territory. And then the most recent years. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of the images. If our technicians can put some images of Bamenda, the very, very first images that they have, for the people to just see where we started and where we are going to.
If they can bring that picture of Bamenda, which was a virgin
Okay,
land,
it
no
appears
house on
that
it.
there may be some internet problems. I just got a message that they may not be able to show the images now. But let's hope that we can see them later on. But in the past, we saw pictures of where we had just the bamboo-like huts, and then after the Germans, there was sparsely built buildings all over the place. It's difficult to continue without the images. So let me just ask you another question, Doc. Where are the finances coming from? Let's talk about the finances. Where are they coming from for all this so-called talk
So
of
you already
development?
mentioned one.
Where
This is
from?
all
Oh, yes,
international. This is all
yes.
international. It's not Yaoundé that sits down like a father sits in a family compound and says, I'm going to designate this amount of money for my children's education, for reconstruction of family property, or what he wants to develop to take care of his family. Yaoundé has never sat down to say, let us think about what we're going to do for the children of Cameroon, all Cameroonians. In fact, during Ahijo's time, something was attempted. They used to have what they call the 5-year development plan, so that in 1975 they met in Bafoussam and designed all the high schools that you see all over, whether it's in Bengwe High School, Wom, and Cambe, and they developed them. Under BIA, you've never heard anything like that. So Yaoundé has not really sat down to think about what they will do. But international organizations are the ones that are rather bringing ideas to compel them to try and do something. So the construction money that you see happening in Donga Mantung, that was Lodrien, the French foreign minister and European minister who came in 2018 when this genocide started and there was conflict and it became an international upheaval. He came to appease our people and said France will donate 49 billion to reconstruct the Northwest and the Southwest. And so that is the part of the money that is being used to construct what you saw as road projects going on in Donga Mantung Division. But besides that, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, African Development Bank, the African Union, they had designed projects for road networks and highway projects all across Africa since the 1970s. And the ideas even went back to the founding fathers of Nkrumah and the others since the early 1960s, where they had planned road networks. And those road networks pass from Lagos through Enugu, Bamenda, going all the way to Mombasa. That's one of those roads. So they, unfortunately, La Republique abandoned the English-speaking region, abandoned Bamenda. They were compelled by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to do something with the Enugu-Bamenda road, which they did and ended up in Bali. But Bamenda was abandoned. And these are major projects for transportation of goods all across Africa. So it is now that some of that money is being used to improve on the road networks in Bamenda, being called the Bamenda Urban Crossing. So those are money from abroad and international organizations and foreign powers, and not from Yaoundé.
Okay, so these are monies from abroad, and we appreciate that they are thinking of us. But is it just free money, or is there something tied to it? And before you answer that, they've been giving money to La République du Cameroun for a long time for development, right? You think about the ring road, that was something that was planned ages ago, before we even left Cameroon to come to the United States. So this has been something that has historically happened, that money has been issued for development here, there. Nothing is seen, nothing can be shown for, but this money is still being given to the person who is supposed to show what they're doing with the money, and nothing's been shown. Why did they continue giving the money when there's no record of any substantial work being accomplished?
Okay, that is a very long discussion. There are some individuals on planet Earth who are interested in economic activity and control money within the banking system. That's a very long discussion. I'm not going to go into that right now. I think you can see a picture of how Baminda or parts of
Okay,
Amazonia used to look in those days. But
right.
basically, so the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, you can give different names to them. They all belong to those people and they want to make money. So the reason they are giving this money is to make money. So it's not free. They want to
Yeah.
develop our land so that
Hmm.
they can generate money and make profit for themselves. Now, but it's a good idea as well. I mean, if you don't have the money, but you have an idea to do something great, you can borrow the money and do it. Unfortunately, with the politicians that have been ruling us so far, when that money is allocated for a project like road infrastructure, they embezzle the money and carry it back to Switzerland and European banks and put it in their accounts, and nothing is accomplished, while we are being considered to have borrowed and have to pay back the money with interest. And that leads us to heavy indebtedness. So that is the unfortunate situation there. But these are international people who own money and want to borrow it for projects to make money for themselves.
Yes. So this is something that will just continue happening with the current leadership that we have, because that's the system that they have. Why change it? I mean, that's what will continue happening, and will not have any good rules to show for. It's always been a problem. I've always pondered why a whole country like La République du Cameroon, before the war, before we even restored our statehood, why will a whole nation not even have great roads linking major cities? I mean, that is the minimum that you can do to help your country, for people to be able to trade easily, or go to major hospitals without staying on the road for 2 3 days, which used to happen in those days. I mean, and it still happens now. Look at some of the roads; they're so muddy. The car will get stuck, and it will take forever to move that truck from one point A to point B. It's always puzzled me why a nation would be like that. And I think the answer is simple. Just make the people just suffer, and just appreciate crumbs. And then when there's something simple happens, they're so appreciative that you've done something major, when it's really their right for to have great roads. It's really the right of the people when they pay all these taxes to have great roads. You're going to say
In
something,
fact,
Doc?
yes, basically, the colonial masters purposefully kept their countries underdeveloped to control the people, to extract resources. And
Yeah.
remember that they are the people who installed the governments and used those people that look like us, called government as president or whatever you call it, in order to continue extracting our resources and stealing. In the specific case of Cameroon, one of Paul Biya's finance minister, I think he was called Justin Dioro, he actually planned a project that connected all the capitals of all the divisions of Cameroon with very good networks, and got a loan from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund guaranteed. He took the project to Paul Biya to sign, and Paul Biya abandoned the project and didn't sign it. And when he followed to ask on it, he said, "Do you want to construct good roads so that when the people rise up against me, they will all be in Yaoundé in a very short time?" So he wants to stay in power by keeping the people disenclaved. That's He refused a good project developed by one of his ministers, just so that people would not be able to reach Yaoundé in a timely fashion to get him out of power. So all they do there is to control the people in order to extract resources, and that is the selfishness of the regime. Unfortunately, they don't have the wisdom to realize that if they develop the country very well and the people are very happy, the people
Hmm.
will have very good memories of him and will keep him in power for as long as they want. And even after he passes, he will remain in their good books and memory because of the great things that he did. That is the unfortunate situation. But that's what happened specifically for Cameroon. And the colonial masters, also particularly the French, wanted to keep Africa under control, and that's why they did not carry out those developments, or suppress them.
Yes, we've seen some images, but let me go back. There was a map, which, if it was possible to show, it would be great, of roads going from uh, passing through Cameroon, but here we go.
Right.
Africa, yes. Um, you want to talk about this? These roads
Correct.
that are supposed to go through
These are
the highway.
projects that were
Yeah,
designed long time ago in 1971. These are networks that are supposed to connect African countries all across Africa, developed since 1991 when Paul Biya was just Ahijo's Secretary General in the presidency. And you can see that there are roads going from Cairo in Egypt all the way to Cape Town in South Africa. You see all the major capitals connected, but I want to carry us to Cameroon. You see from Lagos, you go across Nigeria to Unugu, and then as you enter Ambazonia in Manfe, Manulan, you see how it's interrupted and broken and then
right.
reaches Bamenda before you see that some element of road work is done from East Cameroon, which is Bafoussam, carrying through Yaoundé and going to the border of Central African Republic. But you see the abandonment of that road around Manu to Bamenda. So
Hmm.
that road network is part of the Trans-African Highway that was designed and will pass through Bamenda. So Manu and Bamenda are major hubs of that network that goes from Dakar all the way to Mombasa. You will have very big trucks carrying heavy objects, driving, plying that road, transporting goods all across Africa. We're talking only about motorable roads. There's going to be train roads. There will be other railway tracks connecting all of Africa with each other. That one we're not even talking about. But so those projects were designed since 1971. But Amazonia was abandoned. In fact, at one point, Yaoundé was trying to negotiate as they insisted, the World Bank insisted on the Enugu Bamenda Highway. They wanted to deviate the road as soon as you pass Manu and you come towards Lobialem, instead of going to Bamenda, to go straight to Chang,
Hmm.
just to bypass Bamenda. But it was not
Hmm.
approved because the World Bank insisted it must still pass through Bamenda. So
Yeah.
Yaoundé abandoned Bamenda. The road ended up around Bali. And remember, it's just a one-way each direction. When we talk about highways, we mean like 2, 3, 4 lanes in each direction. That's what we mean by real good highways for these kinds of transportation that we're talking about. So it's just of recent that they are trying now to improve on the urban crossing, as they call it in Bamenda, using a portion of that money. And then it just happens to coincide with when the Pope will be coming. So
I was just about to
they
say that.
delayed under pressure the attempt to do something, but it's not Yaoundé that woke up from sleep. They even tried to divert it from Bamenda just because of the hatred that Yaoundé has for Bamenda and the English-speaking people in Cameroon.
So,
So
so
you can
you're
see
saying.
the little roads in Bamenda, see the abandonment, see there's little effort that they're trying now to pretend to be trying to dig some roads. Let's wait and see. I hope they finish before the rainy season and tire it so that the people don't walk in mud.
So you're saying that this is just a coincidence, and it's not nothing to do with the Pope coming in about a month. They said the Pope should be there sometime in March. It's just a
Oh yes,
coincidence.
I don't think they will even finish those projects before the Pope arrives. They're
Hmm.
trying to improve on the situation of the airport. Remember that airport is where they have been picking our boys and killing them. The army
Right.
was
Yeah.
picking our boys, taking them there,
Hmm.
torturing them, and killing them.
Hmm.
So now
Yeah.
they're cleaning it up, clean the blood, clean the place, pretend that it's functional because the Pope will have to land there. They need the Pope to come every often before they try to pretend to do something for Bamenda. But I don't think
Okay.
by then they will finish that road. But the road is just happens to coincide with when the Pope is coming.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think the future holds for our land in terms of, after all this is said and done? Because it's just cosmetic as far as I'm concerned. There's still a war going on.
I know, and the future Africa is bright. I've said it in some previous programs, and it has to do with demographic changes.
Hmm.
Basically, development follows the population. Where you have a high level of population, the momentum, the dynamism of that population brings development. And so Africa is growing. The birth rate is very high right now compared to other regions of the earth. I've mentioned before, development started with the Industrial Revolution in Britain, moved over to Europe, then came over to North America, and then transferred to Asia with China and the subcontinent developing. Now it's going to India and it will end up in Africa. China was the most populated country on earth until 2022. and has developed massively, and right now it's competing with the United States economically in GDP production. The US is still number one. China is number two. By 2050, China will be number one. The US will be number two. It's moving to India. India is now the most populated nation on earth since 2022. And development will go to India because of the population's momentum. And by 2100, China will still be number one, but India will be number two, and the United States will be number three economically. And the African continent will be coming from behind. By 2100, they will constitute almost 45% of the population of the earth. And there will be tremendous development occurring within the African continent. None of these dictators that you see today will be there. They cannot hold the continent. The level of dynamism and growth going will finish them off. Don't worry about them. They can try to hang on. They're just wasting their time. They'll go into perdition. So that level of development, I think there are some videos that show the level of African highway projects that are in the works. You see developments going all across Africa. Burkina Faso even has major roads on that Traore. Ghana, Nigeria, and others. Even Ivory Coast are developing their roads tremendously and very fast. This little thing happening in Cameroon is like they're walking at snail speed compared to other countries in Africa. And that is coming and will be accomplished. So that by 2100, the population of Africa will be the largest in the world. Major developments will occur in Africa. As the French said, their children will leave Europe to go and look for work in Africa. It's going to be reversed. That is the future that I think is in the books. Whether we are there or not, we don't have to be steering it, but that is what is happening and going to happen.
Yeah, so I just want to read something that Thibault Nash said at the time when he was the Undersecretary of State in charge of African Affairs in July 31st of 2020, after this UNDP financial agreement with La République was relayed to the people. Yes. So this is what he said when he was addressing the U.S. Congress on the subject of Cameroon and Reconstruction. He says that, and when I read this, and then I want to ask you the final question on this topic. Although there's an image I want to see. In fact, recently we are aware that some of our people were victims of this scorched earth policy, where their homes were burned down. And I'm not sure if that video is possible, because I hear the internet is not really carrying some of the videos that they want to show.
Yeah, it's the people who are living in the bushes where the military chased them, killed some, and burned and destroyed their homes, and they're living in the bushes and suffering. The very military.
Yes, I wish you could have seen that video. But
they're trying to appease us, but killing us at the same time.
Killing us again. Yeah. So before I read what I wanted to read about from the Secretary of State, in fact, the government did write a letter urgent to the international. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to this.
We don't want here, we hear now gone. We don't want here, we hear now, we see now smoke for fire. Oh, for all money house, it the burn, picking them, they run. Some people that they run, so they throw away picking them. Oh, mommy they cry for bush, someone will belay them. Someone carry picking them for backs, drag someone for hand. Oh, pa they sofa, they know they see who's away, mommy and picking they go. For village, for Jamo, where people they run before they come, hi for Jamo. They don't come for Jamo again. Army don't come plenty. For the shushu people there for Jamo, they don't burn all we houses them. All chop for picking them. They catch someone them. We don't know which way they don't take them go. Oh, they don't catch some we picking them, some we pay them. Some we get picking they don't take and go. This how we could go for the Jamo now. Where we will run our army for Kumbo, Cambridge for ye. It see the happen. I say now wait. Oh the well. Me the way just see wait how we there for inside bush. We not picking them for inside bush. With the chum na ground. We don't work at the pig. Pig is some food, then we chop them. Because they cry for we corner. Oh, so far. So far.
This is Loambat.
Burned all these houses and displaced all these people who, she said, from Kumbo, which is the Bui division in Banso land. And they escaped to the bushes and were living there. Right now, the military has concentrated its killing machinery in Bui. They're destroying and burning shops in Bui center and basically killing and destroying, burning shops while they pretend to be constructing roads in Donga Mantung, while they pretend to be redoing some roads in Bamenda. The military goes on with their killing and destruction. And our people are suffering like you see.
And I want to remind people that this is a repetition of what happened in 2019, 2020, 2021. We are in 2026 and we're going through the same thing. This is a statement from the government on this matter. Urgent international alert. Alleged scorched earth attacks and mass displacement in Nwa local government. The government of the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian, under mandated leadership of His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikomisako, issues this urgent alert to the international humanitarian and human rights actors regarding grave allegations of coordinated violence and mass displacement in the Nwa local government area of Ndonga Mantum County. According to field reports received from community sources, serious attacks occurred between the 13th and 14th February 2026 in the communities of Lower and Upper Mbat. Local leaders and residents allege that armed groups identified as Mororo Fulani militias carried out the assaults and that these actions form part of a recurring pattern of violence affecting indigenous populations in the area. Documented allegations from the home front. Preliminary assessments compiled by community monitors indicate extensive destruction and displacement, including widespread arson, an estimated 205 residential houses reportedly destroyed, leaving hundreds of families without shelter. We've seen images of some. Damage to civilian institutions, the government school, Mbat, and a Baptist church in Upper Mbat were reportedly burnt, depriving the community of educational and spiritual centers. Loss of livelihoods. Approximately 155 maize barns destroyed and 15 provision stores looted, undermining food security for surviving households. Asset loss. Reports indicate the seizure of 38 goats and 6 motorbikes, key assets for rural subsistence and mobility. I'll end here. So we're connecting this together. They are somewhere pretending that they are reconstructing some areas in the city, and then they go to our rural areas and terrorize our citizens, because that's terrorism, that's genocide, that's severe human rights abuse. That continues in the rural area. And the world is seeing this and sitting on it. I mean, if things like this happens in Ukraine, you hear about it in the next breath, but nobody's talking about this. So we have to talk about this on our broadcast here for people to be aware that there cannot be reconstruction when you're killing the same people that you're trying to provide infrastructure for. Let me have you comment on this, then I'll give the final comment on this topic so we can move to the one on health issues.
You know, like they say, they talk about you hold carrots and sticks. So, or sometimes you see some countries when they go to war, they are throwing food on the ground for displaced people to be eating while they are bombing and destroying the entire place. So that is what La Republique is doing. They give the impression that they are constructing the road, part of the ring road that goes through Donga Mantong, because Donga Mantong people have been collaborating with the Republic throughout this crisis, coming out and marching with them each time they do their ceremonial activities. So they're trying to concentrate their development. They're abandoning other areas. The Womb Road, nobody even wants to talk about it. People carry corpses on motorbikes, and then they go through mud and they fall, and the corpse is thrown out of the coffin because the coffin breaks due to the nature of the road. Nobody even talks about that, and many other things. But they concentrate and try to do a little something for Donga Mantung. While in the same area, like you mentioned, Bui, not far from there, the military is killing people using their collaborators like the Morolos who rear cattle to raid community homes and burn and destroy and kill. And I think in the previous video, we showed how the Republic military was working with the Borolos who carried cutlasses and said they were going to kill mothers and fathers. And they told them, say, yeah, they're angry, we'll just pick the pieces. But you see how the Republic is collaborating with them. So they're using carrots and sticks. The carrot here is pretending to construct the portion of the ring road, and the sticks is killing the people like you kill a snake. And that's what the Republic is doing, because they want to finish off our people in order to maintain the resources and siphon it away. That's all they're doing.
Okay, let me read this statement that I wanted to read before, which was a statement by the then Undersecretary, U.S. Undersecretary of State in charge of African Affairs, Mr. Tibo Nash, on July 31st, while addressing the U.S. Congress on the subject of Cameroon and Reconstruction. The Cameroonian government is talking about the UN Development Program for the Northwest and Southwest. Unfortunately, there is just no way to implement that. The government seems to forget that the number one desire of the people of the Northwest and Southwest regions is to have a say in their own affairs. It is one thing to talk about development, but on the heart of it, it is the key desire to have control over their own lives. Until the Cameroon government understand that all these plans are going to come, but not going to succeed. There it is. Thank you for showing that. So the key thing is that we want land, and that is the message here. Thank you for showing that image, because we want the people to understand that this has been going on way back, and the United States Congress has listened to this person and knows that that's what we want. So they can continue with this game of, as you put it, trying to show us one carrot in one hand and and killing us the other hand. It will not work. It will not work. Go ahead, Dr. Lobati.
Yeah, so basically, I know some people are rejoicing. I saw the people in Donga Mantung, their chief was selected as the secretary of the Northwest House of Chiefs. So they had a large convoy of Okada riders and cars pick up the chief, and they were riding on the paved portion of their road and rejoicing how everything is fine. They are doing well. We're happy when people are doing well. We don't want people to suffer. We don't want people to die for nothing. But you have to know what is truly happening. And what we're saying is that we want to control our territory and determine our level of development, because we love ourselves better than La Republique cares about us. And we will do a better job in developing ourselves and progressing and actualizing our potential on earth than La Republique can ever do. La Republique only wants to subjugate us and steal our things. And it's the French. Even as we are speaking, Macron wants to go to Gabon, and the Gabonese youth have risen up and in social media said they don't want Macron in their country. And their president has banned social media outings in Gabon. So remember that was a fake coup that France did and replaced Ali with this guy to pretend that there was a change of government, which was a fake change of government. The youths know that it's the French that are stealing their resources and keeping them in suffering, and they don't want them. So they're outing, expressing that in social media, and the government that is controlled by the French is banning social media. The French, not only in the Sahel, are gone, but all across Africa will eventually be gone, and Africans will develop themselves. So Yaoundé is leaning on a dying stick, and eventually Yaoundé will lose it as well.
Wonderful. So this statement that I want to read now is our conclusion on this topic, and then we'll move on to the health topic of the day. based on what the government wrote to the international community, I want to just read this final part of it, the call to action. Considering the immediate humanitarian needs, the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia formally appeals to United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, and the international community of the Red Cross, ICRC, to urgently assess the situation and mobilize emergency relief for displaced civilians in and around Mwa, including shelter, medical assistance, food aid, and protection services. The government further urges the international community to closely monitor developments in Donga Mantung and to support credible processes aimed at civilian protection, accountability, and a political resolution to the broader conflict. So we don't want to just read what the problem is. We want to ask the international community to intervene on behalf of the people. So now let's move on to health matters, because we'll probably have only 15 minutes to end the program. Pardon us for starting late. This month, February, is Heart Health Month, and that's why I have red on. I know you don't have red on, but I decided to put on red too, as it's the color for the heart health. And so I just have a few questions for you, since we are running late, Doc. Let me get to my questions. Basically, again, I said February is Heart Health Month. What is Heart Health Awareness? Why do we observe Heart Health Awareness in February? I don't know if there's any significance to February or why we observe it anyway, but that's just the beginning question.
There is just so much that can be said about the heart, but basically the heart is one of the most important vital organs. When it stops working, then the person is dead. So, when a woman is pregnant, you can detect heart activity with sophisticated ultrasound for people in well-developed countries with the equipment as early as 5.5 weeks after the woman's last menstruation, or 6 weeks. And when you eventually die, the heart totally stops working. And doctors can do everything in their effort to revive the person. But if the heart does not pick up and beat again, then we pronounce you dead. So basically, the heart is the most important vital organ to demonstrate that a human being is alive. Once he's gone, you're gone. It doesn't matter for whatever reason, whether it was a heart attack or a stroke or cancer or an infection. Once the heart stops, you're finished. Now, the reason why you have the issue about heart health and why the awareness is because many people have been dying prematurely than they would have died because of so many different kinds of heart disease. And that is partially due to human activity. That means things that we do, not the natural death. They have what we call physiologic homeostasis. That means that when you're born, as you live, you age. And with time, your heart also ages. And when your time to die comes, you're going to die naturally. Yeah. That is a natural physiologic homeostasis. But you can die prematurely due to your own actions. For example, if you eat a lot of processed foods with saturated fats and things that block your coronary arteries, you're going to die prematurely from a heart attack, which can lead to heart failure or rhythm problems. The heart has so many portions. You have electrical portion, which is the rhythm. Then you have the muscle itself that squeezes to pump blood into your body. When it doesn't do so, you talk about heart failure. And you have the valves that open and close for blood to go in one direction or the other. So it has so many different components of illness concerning the heart. But there are things that we do to ourselves that make us die before it's our time to die. And there are things that, we can do to live better and longer. That's why they talk about heart health and trying to encourage people to do their best to live better and longer as much as possible.
Okay, so I think you've answered the question of what is heart. Maybe I should go next and say what is heart disease. But so basically, February is a month for awareness because heart disease is the number one cause of death in both men and women, right? So they want to show this awareness so that every February we remember that don't take this organ for granted. Don't take your heart for granted, because it's really the key to you living a healthy life. So I know you've mentioned about the valves and other things, but if I were to ask you to, in a 2 or 3 sentences, to say what is heart disease, what will you tell the people about what heart disease is in a
From the
nutshell?
perspective of the doctor, it's a little bit complicated because, again, the heart has so many components. You have the
Yeah.
muscle that squeezes and relaxes. When it does not do it the way it's supposed to do, we talk about heart failure. That is one component of heart failure. You have the electrical portion that controls the heart being able to do what it's supposed to do, and you can have defect or diseases affecting the electrical portion of the heart. That's why some people get pacemakers, and more and more we're seeing people with what we call atrial fibrillation in this country. And all around the world, those people who live on sophisticated foods. And like again, I talk about the valve. So it depends on what portion you're talking about. And then we
Yeah.
have the vessels that supply blood to the heart, which can get clogged due to eating, let me put it that way, the wrong foods. That
Right.
just like you can have plumbing in your house clogged by calcification, the cholesterol buildup can block the vessels and lead to heart attacks, just like they can lead to strokes. So there are just too many components to
Too
what we
many.
call heart disease. Correct.
Right. Okay. So moving along, and this is where we start going to where people should think about what matters to them. So, what puts someone at risk of heart disease? There are some risk factors that we can
Yeah, there are so many
teach
different
them
things that
about.
people can do
Yeah.
to themselves that they don't need to do. For example, smoking is a big one. So if you
Okay.
smoke cigarettes, it's a very high risk for getting all the different components of heart disease that I just talked about. So a
Okay.
good doctor will always advise somebody who smokes to quit smoking. Each time they
Okay.
visit and each time they talk to you, if you they will find out if you smoke or you even use substances that cause damage, even drug use and things like that. So they will advise you not to do that. Then, like I mentioned, the kinds of food that we eat. Sometimes we think that we're very wealthy, we're rich, we can eat things that others cannot eat, but unfortunately, some of that food is harmful to us. If you eat natural food like we eat in the villages, back at home, simple food that you harvest from the farm with a lot of vegetable and fruit, naturally prepared with our even corn palm oil, that is more healthy for us. Most of the foods that is manufactured and processed in factories, they have turned out not to be very healthy for us and for the heart. That's so eating. And then the other one is physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
With the ability to own cars and always sit
Yeah.
down and drive around and sit down with the
Mm-hmm.
computers long times, people have stopped walking. In our villages, people used to walk long distances, miles, carry heavy
Right.
objects on their head. And that is a level of exercise. And then purposefully exercising. So when you are not actively exercising, walking, using your muscles and strengths, pushing the endurance level of your heart and other organs like the lungs, then you can die earlier from many other diseases that will also affect your heart, like diabetes, and there are just so many things that we can mention.
Right.
So I would just stop right there. As a doctor, I can spend over an hour talking about that.
Okay, so from what you just said, I can just list from listening to you in terms of just listing the major risk factors. So you mentioned smoking, you mentioned food to eat that can cause high cholesterol, you mentioned lack of physical activity, family history, way of life, stressful living, um, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Number one, high blood pressure. So
Hmm.
those few things, again, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, obesity, because we're inactive, we're gaining weight, lack of physical activity, family history, and stress. Those are all risk factors. And risk factors are things that that make you more likely to have a condition. So if you know your risk factors, you know how to eliminate those risk factors, then the likelihood of having the heart disease, which is what we're talking about, will diminish. So let's move on, Doc, because we just have a few more questions to ask before we end. What are the warning signs of heart attack? So what symptoms should people should never ignore, because sometimes we don't know. We're not sure. Is it
Okay.
indigestion or is it a heart
The
problem?
big
What
acute
are the warning?
one, the big acute one that can lead to immediate fatal death would be an acute pain just behind your heart, right here. If you make a fist, your heart is almost the size of your fist. If you make a fist, that is almost the size of your heart. And if you put it on the front of your chest towards your left, towards your left nipple, that's where your heart is located. So if you experience pain in that area of your heart, sharp or deep pain like a pressure, that is a sign of somebody who may be having a heart attack. And the pain is severe enough that people will try to see a doctor, or in the United States, you will go to an emergency room. And if you neglect that, it can cause a portion of your heart to die, and that portion of the heart can act inappropriately electrically, and then that electrical degeneration can stop your heart. We call it ventricular fibrillation. Will make your heart to stop, and then you will be dead. So some people die in the field just from an acute heart attack suddenly. Those are some of those people that you hear that just collapsed and died, and people don't know
Yeah.
what happened there. It was like a heart attack. But there are other situations. For example, if you realize that the more you're trying to do something, you feel like you don't have enough air, you don't have energy. Just climbing a small hill, just climbing up some steps, you feel like you don't have enough oxygen, you don't have enough air coming in. That can be a sign of your heart getting weaker and weaker, and it's nice for you to go get checked. Like, make an appointment with your doctor as possible, as soon as you can, and go see a doctor. Other ones, you will notice that your legs are swollen with water. That means they're unusually swollen, and when you press, you see like an indentation from the pressing of your hand. And you may discover that you prefer sitting up when you are laying in bed, or to use several pillows to prop yourself up in bed because you cannot lay flat. Those are all some signs of heart failure, which may be subtle. And in
Okay.
that case, you need to go see a doctor to check you out and help to stabilize you with medications. There are so many other things that we
Yeah.
can consider there. Some of them is like dizziness. When your heart is beating too fast, like over a 50 to 200, you don't get enough blood circulation, and you can get dizzy and pass out. You just collapse somewhere.
Thank you so much, Doc. Yes, I wrote some down just to supplement what you've said. So that chest pain or pressure is like the cardinal sign. You mentioned shortness of breath, where you just want to walk somewhere and you're feeling out of it. And then some pain in some other parts of the body that are not usual, like in the arm, the neck, the jaw, or the back. And then some not so subtle ones you mentioned, maybe nausea or sweating or lightheadedness. And then for women, sometimes it's said that women may even have these symptoms like fatigue or nausea or back pain that are not typical. So if you're a woman that normally you don't have problems, and you start feeling nauseous, fatigue, back pain, those are things that you may want to look into. Moving along, Doc, let's talk about, these are all related to heart disease. What about stroke? How can people recognize a stroke quickly? Because that's another thing
Correct.
that
So
is important to
basically,
look
the conditions that lead to heart attacks also lead to strokes. So just like the smoking, all the bad food that we eat, they also clog the vessels that lead to the brain, and they cause stroke. There are two kinds of stroke. Yeah, most common is the one where you have less flow of blood from the cholesterol blockage. But you also have another one where you bleed into the brain. That would be mostly from, like, you have a very high blood pressure, which is not controlled, and it's so high that it causes the blood vessels to burst, and then you bleed into your brain. So um, when you notice that you have an unusual illness affecting your brain, even just dizziness, uh, sometimes one side of your body is not working like normal. Like maybe your speech is not coming out clear.
right.
One side of your jaw is sagging. When they say you should smile, one side contracts, the other side is sagging, or you cannot swallow safely. Maybe one part of your body is dead. Those are all signs of strokes that you want to make sure you go to a doctor to get checked as soon as possible, so that we can rescue you. In this country these days, we can, if they see you within a few minutes, if possible in less than an hour, take you in and go grab the clot that is causing the stroke and take it out and restore your body function the way it was before the stroke. We're able to do that in our hospitals this day. I'm not sure they
Yeah.
can do that in many parts of Cameroon, unfortunately.
Well, that's why we're trying to build our own. We want the chance to have Ambazonia because we're going to implement all the things that we've learned, And just for a recap, for people to remember that there's some letters that help you remember if somebody's having a stroke. It's called FAST, FAST, where
Mhm.
F stands for face drooping, F face drooping, A stands for arm weakness, S stands for speech difficulty, and T time to call. So if you're sitting with
Mhm.
somebody and you notice something just went off, like the face was drooping, or the person shows that the arm is weak, they cannot even move their arm, or they cannot even speak, know that there's a stroke going on, and it's time to react right away, call for help right away. Because when they get treatment right away, there's a possibility of reversing the problem. Okay, moving on to how does high blood pressure affect the heart? Um, why is high blood pressure called a silent killer? Because it is a silent
Yeah,
killer.
because again, with time, your heart basically will have to generate pressure to overcome the pressure of the vessels to release blood into circulation. And when the heart is working too hard, just like somebody who is doing bodybuilding and muscle building, the heart will now become thicker and thicker because it has to generate a higher pressure just to release blood into circulation. So it becomes thicker and thicker. And when it becomes too thick, the amount of blood that is released for the heart to function may not be sufficient. And then the heart can become weak because it becomes too thick. It does not get enough nutrients from the vessels that they have. And that can also lead to a sudden, not only heart attack, but a sudden cardiac arrest. And then you die from it. That's why they call it a silent killer. So if you treat your blood pressure, you improve your chances of living longer. And same thing with stroke. Like I said, once you have high blood pressure with pressures over 180 to 120 to 200 and above, and you stay at that level, it can lead to an acute stroke. And most often, that would be the bleeding type. The one where if they would do appropriate imaging, like a CT scan without contrast, they will notice that you bled heavily into your brain. That is important because it determines what medicine to use for the kind of stroke that you have. So high
Okay.
blood pressure can be a silent killer. It become even a fatal stroke or even your heart having a sudden cardiac arrest.
Okay. Let's talk about preventive measures now. What you can do to help yourself. Let's talk about how to protect the heart. What foods support health heart? So what type of food should people be eating? I know you mentioned some earlier, but let's just hone on that right now. What type of food should people be eating, and what type of food should they avoid?
Correct. So you want to live as naturally as possible. All this idea of being a sophisticated rich guy is not. That is not it. The food that we used to eat in the village, that our
Mhm.
grandmothers prepared, that is very good natural food. All these sophisticated foods that you prove that you go and sit in high-ranking restaurant, chicken and others that have been fast produced in the factory in less than 2 months are already on the table for you to eat. With all those things, once you live on those, you're not healthy. You're leading. And in Cameroon, people used to take pleasure in people being fat. They think that because you are gained a lot of weight, it means you are living well. No, it's not healthy. Being very fat, it can be a sign that you're a sick person who may not live long. So living as naturally as possible, eating simple foods, not be a glutton, because when you eat too much and your
Mhm.
body is not able to utilize what you have consumed, it will deposit in your body, and that's why you get fat. It
Yeah.
will deposit in your liver and other body organs. It leads to diabetes and so many other conditions. So eat in moderation, eat natural, good food, balanced, not sophisticated. Be active. Don't be ashamed walking. Don't be ashamed exercising. Don't think that if you don't have a car, it means that you are finished. The fact that you are walking, you are exercising. I'm saying this for our people back at home. If you
Mhm.
live here in the United States and you don't have a car, in some places you will not be able to do much. So you need a car. But even if you have a car, and especially these days that people work at home with information technology and hardly get up and walk, make sure you purposefully get up and walk for some few hours every day and get up and exercise yourself, because otherwise you have poor circulation in your legs and you can develop thrombosis, which is a clot that can also lead to sudden death. So anyway, there's just a lot that can be said. Everything in moderation. Don't think that by being fat it means you are healthy. It is not. It goes along with,
Okay.
even like you mentioned, sleep apnea syndrome. It leads
Mhm.
to uh, metabolic disorders like diabetes that I talked about. Not to mention about the lipids for doctors who know about this. So when you are lean and thin, it's healthy. I'm not saying that everybody has to be lean and thin. There are some people who genetically have a bigger body build. So, but as long as you are eating in moderation and are active and you exercise, it's good for your health. You realize that when we do your lab test, you will not have diabetes, your cholesterol will be well controlled, and um, your pressure too will be better. Unfortunately, there are some people who have enzymatic disorders in their systems where, in spite of their good efforts, they will still have either that diabetes or lipid disorder, and some of them may die naturally from what we call congenital diseases. Those are diseases that you inherit through genes from your parents.
Wonderful. So, in summary, you're advising us to increase our intake of leafy greens because that's what we grew back home. Our parents were in the villages, like Mbop and all the like. Increase your leafy greens intake. Fruits, mostly berries. We say berries because we're in the developed world. Back home, there's some healthy fruits that you could eat. I think we have berries. We have wild berries in Amazonia. Increase, and those berries are wild. We usually didn't really think much about it. If you can have access to wild berries, enjoy them because they have a lot of antioxidants. Grains, whole grains, nuts, fish, olive oil, and this is for diaspora and life mostly, but back home you could make do with it if you can buy it. And then things to reduce salt intake, reduce processed food like Doc mentioned, reduce sugary drinks, all these sodas that we drink, you have to cut them down, and very fatty food. Now, talking about exercise, for people that are living in the developed world, in the diaspora, that may be so busy with work, what is the minimum, what minimum exercise is needed? What do you say, Doc? And then back home, you know.
Well, it's difficult to tell. Again, it varies from person to person. But I would say, let's say your work compels you to sit at a desk and work all the time. I would say you need to do at least 1 to 2 hours of walking, as much as you can. In our workplace, some secretaries who sit and work, they take their lunch break purposefully to go around and walk
Yeah.
before they come back. It's not very much to go and eat. They just take to walk around the block, for whether it's 30 minutes or 1 hour.
30
And then in the
minutes. Yeah.
evening, some people play golf. You use the sports as an opportunity to exercise your body. You can be
Right.
playing golf, you can be playing soccer, whatever game you think you like. But even if you're just walking on the farm to go harvest food, it's still exercise. You don't have to think that I spend 2 hours going to the farm to bring home something. I have to go play golf. No, just be physically active with your body is what is important here, even if you don't have the opportunity to play golf.
Absolutely. So, in general, as we conclude this topic, is heart disease preventable based on what we've just learned?
Yes, a lot of modern heart conditions are preventable if we inform ourselves and do the right things and avoid behaviors that lead to a heart condition. But naturally, every human being that is born, by 5.5 weeks to 6 weeks, your heart starts beating. And as you continue living, even if you did all the right things, you ate all the right food, you were physically active, one day you are still going to die naturally.
Yeah.
That is what they call the physiologic homeostasis. That is the doctor's language here.
Okay.
So even when Bia tries to pretend that he's still alive, he's still going to die naturally.
He's gonna die. All right. So we concluded the show. Doc, what is your closing remarks? Putting both topics together, I want to appreciate you for coming to the Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. Your
Yes,
closing remarks.
I just want to encourage our people that a lot is happening to us. Some of it can be confusing. We have suffered so much, and people are struggling to survive, that when they throw a little bone at you, like Weber said, then you think that, oh, finally our problem has been solved. Even if you have the retired ring road portion to your village, yet you still have to raise children who have to grow and mature and go to school. And they'll be discriminated by La République du Cameroon. So the problem has not yet been solved. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, we thank God for some level of development. The regime in Yaoundé that is causing us this trouble is living on a lifeline. Don't worry, the pretentiousness, Once in a while, they'll take B out, dress him up, make him stand like a scarecrow and give a speech like he's still alive. Then he's cutting a cake. But he's not a dynamic president like Traore, who is building his country, going to construction sites, and you can see a president doing what he should be doing to take care of his people. He's just waiting to eventually pass on, and his regime will go away. Our future is great, and the win and the momentum about the future is on our back. So let our people take courage, be wise. Don't let a foolish La Republique military shoot and kill you for nothing. Handle yourself with wisdom among them, and with time, things are going to change in our favor. Stand your ground about the truth. Don't compromise the truth for a crumbs. Don't let La Republique deceive you that, oh, we came and cut out your village, so Bia is a wonderful man now. He's a saint. Oh, that kind of thing. And then they give you some little billions, some little money, and you take that and compromise your conscience. Don't sell your conscience. You will be selling your birthright. That's what I would say. There are so many things that I can say, but the future is great and it's in our favor.
Thank you so much for being my guest on the Horizon. I'm sure I'll be seeing you again shortly, as always, because you're our permanent guest. As we conclude this program, I want to make my final statement as health related. So heart disease is not just a hospital issue. It's a community issue. Prevention begins at home, everyone. At the dinner table, in your daily habits. So this February, which is Heart Health Awareness Month, let's commit to knowing our numbers. So know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol level, and commit to moving your bodies, eating wisely, encouraging our loved ones to do the same. A healthy heart means a longer and stronger life in general. So I want to thank everybody for being on the Horizon, watching us today. We hope to see you next time on the Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, and have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amba woman, exclusively on ABC Amba TV.